Hi, I'm Brian Kellerman, the co-founder and Chief Quality and Food Safety Officer at Kellerman Consulting, and you are watching our video series on internal audits. In this episode, we are going to review the most important aspects of internal auditing, all of which occur prior to performing the internal audit. Planning and preparation must occur prior to any internal audit in order to have a successful outcome. It can seem intimidating to go through a mountain of paperwork looking for correct or incorrect information or documentation. Participants can certainly get better through experience, but good preparation really makes it much easier to conduct an internal audit and sets you up for success even if you are new to it. I'm reminded of a statement in Harvey Picnic's Little Red Book where the author describes a golf swing as being ruined before the club is ever moved. Picnic goes in to explain the way the club is handled and how the golfer sets up, determining if the swing is going to be successful almost all of the time. This description and internal audits are very much alike. So let's look at these important considerations: the auditor, the scheduling, the method, and the timeline. All successful audits start with the selection of the proper person or people to perform the audit. This is the most important aspect of the internal audit, although it's often treated as a secondary consideration, with the task relegated to anyone who will just get it done. When it's feasible, a team should be selected with at least one trained auditor coming from a department other than quality assurance or compliance each time the audit is performed. Each person involved should watch a video series like this one or take an internal audit training course so they understand their role in performing the audit. Additionally, each employee or department that will be audited, called the auditee, should be made aware of the audit, its importance to the company, and be made aware of each person or team who will be auditing them. In any scenario where insufficient record keeping or fraudulent activities are suspected, employees that have been known to have participated in those actions or who may have some involvement should not be responsible for conducting that area of the audit. Employees suspected to be participating in any instance of fraud probably shouldn't be included in the audit at all, if possible. If the correct person is performing the audit, then in all likelihood the audit will be successful. When the wrong person is in the lead, the audit will likely be disorganized or unproductive. Ensuring the auditor has proper training is an essential aspect of the audit, but equally essential is making sure that the audit team includes at least one member who is knowledgeable enough about operations to fully understand the records and actions being reviewed. If an organization feels that choosing the member of a maintenance department or IT department to participate in the audit is appropriate, that person must have a working understanding of the operation to know if paperwork in other departments are filled out correctly and accurately. Lastly, we also need to make sure that the auditor is independent of the area and operations being audited. So, the IT manager is not allowed to audit the IT work they oversee. It is because of this need to avoid having employees audit their own work that it is preferable to have more than one auditor during an internal audit. In our episode on performing the internal audit, we will look at how a very small operation that cannot pull together a team of auditors can still ensure that the auditor does not audit their own work. In addition to finding the right person or team of people to conduct the internal audit, the organization must effectively schedule the audit and make sure that the schedule is followed. Scheduling for an internal audit does not require that it is performed in its entirety on a specific day. Instead, we need to determine how often we want or need to audit. Some organizations schedule one audit annually. Others break it up and schedule audits quarterly. Audits can also be performed each month if that makes sense for operations. Since it is best practice to make sure that the entire quality or safety management system is audited at least every year, the more audits we have during the year, the smaller each audit can be. Where audits are performed quarterly or monthly, one area of operations may be selected each time an audit occurs, and the schedule should instruct the auditor or audit team which section or sections should be audited each time. With the auditor selected, and the frequency of auditing for the organization determined, we can now turn our attention to the method of auditing. An internal audit primarily consists of interviewing employees and reviewing operational records. Selecting the questions we intend to ask and identifying the records we determine are the most important to review ahead of time is going to be the approach we take for a successful audit. The easiest approach to an organized audit is to make or download an audit checklist before you get started. All audit investigations must determine conformity or nonconformity for each question, so there will need to be a place to enter results on your audit form or checklist. The audit method or audit checklist for the internal audit is usually determined by the purpose of the audit. For an organization that is performing an audit to comply with ISO 9001 quality management certification, or a food manufacturer complying with a GFSI internal audit requirement, the method of auditing would be to use the rule book for that scheme and to audit against it. If a customer requires an internal audit, communicating with that customer to understand their priorities, as well as working with the audit team to pre-select all of the customer's products, services, and related operations would define the method of auditing. When audits have been scheduled on a quarterly or monthly basis, dividing up the audit checklist sections allows the auditor or audit team to think through specific areas of operations for each audit and to craft the audit process to investigate each of those areas. This too affects the method of audit each time. For example, auditing the customer service department might include calling the call center and engaging with the department on the phone or via chat box in addition to interviewing a manager and reviewing customer complaints or feedback records. The final stage of the audit that requires planning ahead of time is the timeline of the audit and post-audit reporting. Planning of post-audit activities must center on performing corrective actions based on the internal audit findings. The audit results and corrective actions need to be communicated to top-level management after completion. As with the audit itself, the organization needs to establish the schedule for these actions as part of the audit preparation. Following the audit, management needs to hold the auditors and the auditees accountable for staying as close to the schedule as possible. Due to the fact that internal auditing requires a significant amount of work, and because they require coordination with employees across multiple areas of operation, the possibility of delay or lack of willpower to complete the audit exists. This is especially true for the first few times an organization attempts an internal audit. It is crucial that the timeline of the audit is firm and includes the expected schedule of the audit, the time between the audit and the completion of the corrective actions, and the amount of time allotted for presentation of results to management. The ability within the organization to schedule, assign, perform, and review audits is a powerful tool for maintaining control and effectiveness in an organization and can be the difference between being a successful organization and not. If you've watched our previous video series, you know that leadership involvement is a crucial part of the success in setting up higher level programs, and internal auditing is no exception. While the leadership of the organization does not need to personally perform the internal audit, leadership must demand the internal audit be performed according to predetermined schedules and must review the results of those audits each time they are performed. For more information on the scheduling, methods, and timeline for an internal audit, please visit the Kellerman Consulting website where you can find free downloads to assist in internal auditing. You will also be able to find our other episodes on internal auditing. In our next episode, we'll look at how to perform the internal audit and how the auditor should behave in order to lead an effective internal audit. Thank you for watching. For more food safety training videos and resources, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel or follow us on LinkedIn.